Well, really, when you look at the history of flight, we've always been trying to overcome degraded visual environments. From when man first took to the air, you look back at like old postal deliveries, they created instrument flying rules and instruments so that they could go ahead and accomplish that mission. And so we started doing that, very early on. We integrated instrument flight capabilities into the aircraft, and then through the 70s, we integrated night vision goggles, we integrated infrared, and it was all to be able to successfully operate in those degraded visual environments. And that's any environment where you don't really see as well as you see during the day. We wanted to go out and give ground commanders the ability to get support from Army Aviation at any time. So now that we've really conquered the night, and I could say we own the night, now we're looking at how do we own fog? How do we own operations in all of these other degraded visual environments so that we can take tactical advantage? We can give the commander the support they need, but we also can ensure aircrew safety throughout the entirety of those operations. So it's really critical that we operate across the spectrum of degraded visual environments. And the example that I like to use that's most pertinent is if you have a ground element that comes in contact and you have a wounded soldier and you've got that golden hour and you have heavy fog, how do I get a medevac out to them so that I can get that soldier loaded on it and get them back to a hospital? We've got to give our aviators the ability, because they want to go, they will try to go, they want to save that soldier that's on the ground. That is the sacred bond between Army Aviation and the ground soldier that Army Aviation supports. And so that's really what we're trying to do with all of the efforts throughout AMRDEC. And it's not just AMRDEC, but it's across the Research, Development, and Engineering Command, because this is a much larger effort than just what we're doing here in the AMRDEC.
And when it comes to, you mentioned the larger effort, but what is the specific work that's being done by AMRDEC?
Sure. So for AMRDEC, we are the overall program lead for the Degraded Visual Environment Program. And it really started back in '03 after we went into Iraq and Afghanistan and we encountered brownout. We lost some aircraft, and so we wanted to integrate technology that would give our crews the ability to safely land. But then since then, in about the 08-09 time frame, we received a funded program, S&T, to determine how we could best use multiple different sensors, fuse all that imagery together, give the crew cueing so that they could fly in all of the different degraded visual environments that we've defined, and then have a flight control system that makes it very easy to fly that aircraft. That way they can use all of their mental capacity to execute the mission and not really have to struggle to fly the aircraft and accomplish the mission. So we're overall in charge of that program. We're working on how you integrate that on an aircraft, which is pretty complex, and how we advance flight controls. And then we're working with the Army Research Lab on how we give a pilot the right cueing environment. And then the Communications, Electronics, Research, Development, and Engineering Center, they're developing a sensor package and then working on how you fuse all of that sensor imagery together to give really kind of a synthetic vision picture to an aircrew.
Now, brownout, that's a term that I know, that you know, but for someone that doesn't know, what is brownout?
So when you think about a helicopter and you think about the rotor forces, anybody who's heard a helicopter fly or seen it land can see the amount of wind or air that it kicks up. So we call brownout an induced environment because that's when an aircraft comes in and it lands. And depending on a lot of different factors of how that aircraft is designed and the gross weight of it, determines how much sand it will kick up. But suffice to say, our aircraft kick up so much dust that typically when you land in those environments or you take off, you cannot see out the window anymore. And so you have almost no visibility. And so the question is, how do you give the crew the right information, the right flight controls so that they can take off out of that environment if they're taking off out of a desert environment, or when they're, say, doing an infill, which is infiltration, putting soldiers on the ground someplace, how can they safely land, get on the ground, and then allow those soldiers to get off and go execute their mission and then safely get out of there.
So for a pilot, if I'm an Army Aviation pilot and I'm hearing about this program, what's the benefit to me?
So ultimately, the benefit to you is an ability to support the ground force commander in more weather, in different types of weather, in more adverse conditions, with increased precision and increased safety. So I think any Army aviator, if you ask them, will talk about the sacred bond, as I said earlier, that we have with the ground force. And when the ground force needs support, we want to go out there and deliver that support. So the technology that we'll be able to deliver will allow them to execute that mission with precision when the weather is not ideal, and allow them to do it safely, and allow them to return back and then go out and execute again day after day, which is what they want to do, which is what they are entrusted to do for, our Army brethren that are on the ground.
So effectively, if I'm trying to put what you guys are doing in layman's terms. You're effectively creating a virtual environment around the aircraft so that the pilot can see, so that way because of the dust and everything like that, they can't previously see. So it's not just getting the aircraft down level, it's, as you showed me in the video, it's if there's trucks, carts, power carts, everything around them, just allowing them to see through the dust.
It is, and not just dust, but if you think about when it's very, very foggy outside. Think about driving down the road and it's very foggy outside and you've got your headlights on. You're trying to follow the headlights that are in front of you. Well, just imagine if there's no headlights, you've got a road out there, there's thick fog. Brownout's the same way. So what we are doing is integrating a lot of different sensors that are on the nose. Just think about like the bumper radars that we now have on cars that tell you when you're getting near something. Those types, but more technologically advanced. And then we're creating a picture out of that. So it's not a visual picture that you see with your eyes. It's a synthetic picture, a virtual picture, if you will. And it detects all the obstacles. So I'm flying en route down a valley. It will tell me if I have power lines. That's what we want to be able to do. If I need to go land in an area, it will tell me whether there's a truck there, power lines, poles, different bars or obstructions, a wall that may be in there. And then I can land safely in that environment as well. And so that is a very complex problem, though, to solve, and that's why we're involved in the technology maturation for it.
Great, and for you, what's your experience when you're working on this project day in, day out? What's the feeling you get that makes you go, this is all worth it? Like, is there one moment, is there one part of the program where you're excited to do? What makes it all worth it?
So I'm excited, all the time because, we're working in a field that all of us love. We got into aviation for a reason. We love aviation and we love working on aviation technology. And then when you can take technology and you can deliver it to soldiers that can go out and use it and execute their mission, and you know that you can have a part in them being able to successfully execute their mission and then come home to their families, that is what makes it all worthwhile. And so in this particular program, we've known many folks who have lost their lives executing missions because of degraded visual environments that they've encountered. And every time that we advance a piece of technology or we see something that spirals out to the field, we get excited because we know that nobody knows who we are, but we played a part in that, and that's good enough because we've helped somebody execute the mission and come home.